Welcome back, my pretties, to another Halloween special of Spoiler Country. Step in, enjoy the festivities. Don't mind the dead ones. They're just hanging around. United Army of Spoilerverse, welcome back to Spoiler Country. I'm Kenneth and that is Mr. Horsley, and it's time for the Halloween special 2019.
Ooh. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We have a great show that we've been spending over a month putting together for you guys tonight.
Nice. And we got lots of people that have called in or written in, and we got some stories to say. Is what's going down, right?
We got lots. We got people from all over the world, all over the people you've heard on the show before, new people we've just met. We have creators talking to us, telling us their favorite stories, their favorite Halloween horror stories, with the book, comic book, or movie. We've got people telling us that, but just telling us a scary story. So we got some ones that surprised me. We got some really cool ones in here too.
Have you what is your favorite Halloween costume that was a classic horror icon, like be it witch or vampire or mummy or Frankenstein? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's for me. That's easy. I dressed up as Dracula for like 5 years in a row as a kid.
5. So I've talked about my mom on this podcast before. I love my mom dearly, but she's super religious. She doesn't like Halloween, but I will give it to her because she dressed me up as Dracula one year when I was like 9.
Nice.
So and if you know my mom, you know that's hard for her to want to do.
Right.
You know, and she put Crisco, like a thin layer of Crisco, over my face, and it gave me like this white complexion. Ugh. And then she used Crisco to slick my hair back, and then she hand sewed my cape together.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I looked like a little freaking Irish Dracula. It was hilarious.
That's awesome. And then
another year she ripped up a bunch of bed sheets and she made me a mummy.
Cool.
And then the coolest costume I ever went as was a big fat baby, where I used a pillowcase as a diaper. And I had Kaylie's bottle as my bottle.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
perfect.
It was hilarious. Even though that's a classic monster, because babies terrorize everybody.
Babies are terrifying. My favorite costume I ever did, I think I was 14 or 15. And I went as a serial killer. Uh-huh. So I had my hair, and I had long hair at the time, but shoulder length hair, and I had my sister rat it up to where it was all poofy and weird everywhere. I put on this big clothes and ripped them up, put blood all over them, and then I had an axe with a box of Honey Nut Cheerios on it. And I was a serial killer.
Well, before we get into all of this cool stuff that we've curated to present to you guys today, I want to let you know, if you're hearing us for the first time on Facebook or YouTube, or hopefully on our own website, scpod.net, where we have a massive amount of articles and stories and just cool stuff in general. You'll see some jokes there, some joke articles type of stuff, things that'll make you some thought-provoking stuff. Learn how to be a ghost hunter, which I thought was awesome that Sarah did. Shout out to Sarah and to Jade for bringing her on to have her start doing articles for us, because she's been awesome. Yes. And seriously, go check that place out. But that being said, if you are the first time being here and you're hearing in those areas, we're also on all the podcatchers, meaning that it doesn't matter what kind of phone you're on. If you go to its marketplace, be it Google or Apple or whatever, and you do a search for podcatchers, so either Google's own Google Play stuff or iTunes or whatever, or Podcast Addict or Podchasers, we're on all that stuff. So if you like what you're hearing, please download us from your favorite spot and give us a subscribe, and you'll get all the newest stuff when it comes out. Also, we're on all the social medias, and you can reach us on Twitter and Facebook and and Instagram, and we're pretty good at getting back to people. So if you have questions, or if you want to hear something, or you want to be a part of this, give us a shout out.
Or if you're a creator and you want to come on the show for an interview or have us review your book, hit us up on social media or shoot us an email at spoilercountry@gmail.com and we'll get back to you. We'll see what we can do at making that happen.
Yeah, we also have voicemail.
We do. You can call us. Actually, a lot of the people on the show tonight called into the voicemail. So call 707-656-2080. Leave us a voicemail, and we'll do something with it eventually, I promise.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. Hey, Johnny.
Yeah.
Give me your bestest.
Sure.
Witch's laugh.
Oh, my best. I don't know. I've never tried to laugh like a witch before.
Oh, even better. Do it. Oh man, that's pretty good. That was pretty good. I do a witch's laugh for kids, and it always makes me laugh because they're always shocked when I do it. And it's,
do it. No, that's really good. Way better than mine.
It's always fun to do that because, especially in the dark, because it freaks them out.
Right.
All right. Well, let's check out all the spooky stories.
Yeah.
So this is Sarah. Spoilerverse knows me as Sara Kay. And I'm recording my scary story for Halloween. So any of you that have read my articles on the Spoiler Country website know that I am very much into the paranormal world. I've always believed in it. I've always had a feeling or knowledge that there is some other plane of existence out there. I feel this very strongly. I totally believe in it. I get it if other people don't, but one thing I found as when I was working as a paranormal investigator is that whether you believe in it or not, everybody has a story. You know, once you tell them that, you know, what you do and you go out and you help clients and you investigate these things, it's like the floodgates open and it's like they finally have somebody who might actually believe their story. So I've believed in this my whole life. And so this story is actually about my daughter when she was a baby. I want to say she was maybe 10 months old. I know she was still like a baby because I was giving her a bath in, I had one of those inflatable bathtubs that I was giving her a bath in. So she was still pretty young and not talking very well, but she had she would speak words. She had words that she knew, uh-oh and mama and stuff like that. So at the time we were living with my parents, and I can't remember where they were, but I know that they were not home at the time. And it was just me and Megan, the baby, at home. And all night I kept feeling like my clothes were being tugged on, almost like when you get your shirt stuck on like a doorknob or a cabinet door or something. And it gives like that little tug. But I was nowhere near a doorknob or a cabinet or anything that it could be caught on. So it was kind of strange. I remember at one point I had the baby on the bed and I was going through my drawers to get some clothes out to give her a bath. And I felt what seemed to be like a hand grab my calf and just squeeze it really quick and let go. And that kind of shook me up a little bit because, you know, we did have a cat at the time, but anybody who has a cat knows what a cat feels like when it rubs up against your leg. It doesn't feel like somebody squeezing your calf. So I was a little shook up about that, but I got Megan into the bathtub and, you know, again, she had one of those, inflatable tubs that we put inside the actual bathtub. And I'm on my knees on the outside of the tub and we're playing with her toys and everything. And she kind of looks up at me and she's got that happy little baby face, you know, happy in the bath splashing around. And then she looks right over my left shoulder just behind me and her smile kind of fades away. And she didn't look afraid or anything. It was just that kind of that face when you see a little kid in the grocery store and you're making faces at him or trying to get him to smile, but they just kind of stare at you with that dead look on their face. That was sort of the face she was making, like she was trying to figure something out. So she's looking over my left shoulder, and I kind of look back there to see if there's a bug or whatever, but something that would distract her. There was nothing. So I kind of get in her and, lean over to the left a little bit and try to get in her line of sight and get her attention back. And she leans back a little farther as she's trying to see around me, whatever it is that she's looking at. So I finally ask her, I'm like, well, what do you see? What do you see, baby? What's going on? What's back there? What do you see? And she, what must have been like her first moment of total clarity as a human creature, lifts up her little arm and points behind me and just says, "Man." And, I turn around, there's no man behind me, but she obviously saw something. And then after that, I got her back interested in her toys, and she kind of forgot about that and played, and we got her out of the bath and everything was fine. And she never said anything else about it. That was the only night that ever happened. If she ever saw anything else, she never mentioned it to me, but it was just kind of a really creepy moment. The house was really quiet, and she very straightforward, matter-of-factly told me that she saw a man standing behind me. So I definitely think, something moved through my house that night. So yeah, that's my story.
Hey guys, this is Colton Bird, who typically writes for the website, and I guess I should tell you guys about maybe my favorite horror movie. Now, it came out in 90-something. I don't really remember. I'm not going to fact check myself for it. But it's the original Blair Witch Project. Now, I know everybody knows that that's a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. But when you're like 3 and you watch it for the first time, yeah, I know, great parenting by my parents there. It is something that always, really interests me. It was 3 people getting lost in the woods by a mystical being that's changing the woods around them. Then they all die. But I remember that the advertising for the movie literally had missing posters of those people. And I was like, whoa, is this actually real? That freaked me out for a second. Now that I'm older, I realize, hey, this movie really does suck. It's so bad. But now I can look back at it, I'm like, maybe it wasn't the witch. Maybe it was the 2 guys that lured her into the woods to kill her, or, some other conspiracy theory. Now, I do have a scary story for everyone. Now, bear with me here. It's terribly scary. Financial instability. Ooh. Alright, guys. That's been my favorite horror movie, and I will see you guys later. Bye.
It was about 4 years ago. Recently, my life was rocked when my wife and I split, and unsurprisingly, stress and depression took hold of me. Sleep was a commodity I didn't get nearly enough of during this time in my life. So like every other night, I was up late, tossing and turning in my bed. Shortly after I fell asleep is when it all started. At first, it was like any other dream I had, wishing my family was back together and things had gone differently. In the dream, I was with my ex and our kids. She was due to give birth to another child with a new guy she was with, and that was happening soon. And there's no denying that this bothered me to no end. Now, in this dream, the child was already born, and it was forced on me to hold the child. As I held it in my arms, something immediately fell off. There was an evil presence, and fear rushed over me. As I looked down at the face, the evil that I saw was absolutely chilling. The only thing I wanted to do was get away, and I couldn't. Not only was I unable to put the child down, but it got heavier and heavier. Its darkened eyes staring up at me. The fear continued to build. At this moment, a demonic-like laugh began to fill the void of silence. It was then that I realized I was dreaming. However, it didn't make things any easier. I started telling myself to wake up. Wake up. Multiple times I said wake up, but to no avail was I waking up. Finally, I was able to pull myself out of the dream, and there I laid in bed on my stomach, paralyzed and unable to talk. As I attempted to regain control of my body, first by trying to move my head, then my arms and my legs. But that's when I felt it. A feeling I've never felt before and have only ever felt one time since. Pure, unnerving evil. I could feel it. Something staring right at me. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. When I opened my mouth, no sound came out. I tried to gather my thoughts, but fear swiftly crept into my mind. I was blinded, not physically, but mentally. All I could think of was getting out of this moment, staying alive, and seeing my loved ones again. Tears began to run down my face. The lurking presence of evil seemed to grow, and the only thing I could think of doing was pray. Pray that it was going to end. Pray that whatever this was standing over me in my room would go away and never return. Please, God, be with me. Help me. At some point I must have fallen back asleep, as I later woke up and was absolutely terrified of moving from my bed. The moonlight creeping in through the blinds was all the light I had to look around my room. I finally worked up the courage to swiftly jump up and turn on my light. Everything was clear. Nothing was in my room. At least for now. Many call this sleep paralysis. It's defined as a temporary inability to move or speak while falling asleep or upon waking. Sleep paralysis most often occurs in people who have narcolepsy or sleep apnea, but it can affect anyone. The one thing that they don't describe in this is the sensation of pure evil lurking over you. In many stories you will find people describe a demon of sorts sitting on their chest, looking down at them. For me, since I was asleep on my stomach, I felt the presence behind, looking down at me. Now I am a religious person. I believe in God, demons, heaven, and hell. I know that demons prey on those who are in a weakened mental state. For me, this was a time that I had never been more vulnerable. My trust in God had fallen off, and stress, anxiety, and depression had taken hold of me. I was the perfect mark for a demon to corrupt and try to manipulate, using my current and long-time fears to mess with my head. Since then, I had one other experience, not long after that first. It again started as a nightmare, but this time I was a bit quicker in the realization of my dreaming. I pulled myself out of it, and while the evil presence was felt, I was much more calm at this point. Yes, fear still rushed over me, but I didn't allow it to overtake me as it did before. This is an experience I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Helplessness and evil is all you feel. I know for a fact there was something in my room with me that night, and to this day I still get chills even thinking about it. And I'm not afraid to admit that there was a good 6 months or more I had to have a light on for me to even trust to go to sleep. Now I'm interested to hear what you have, if you've ever experienced anything like that. So please, reach out to me on Twitter, @Slavinksy. Reach us on our Facebook. I want to hear if anybody else has had other stories like this. This kind of stuff interests me, not only because it's happened to me, but I like to hear stories like this because I like to know that I'm not alone in these situations. I've been Robert Slavinksy from Shootin The Sith, and thanks for listening.
The scariest thing that ever happened to me is something that most Americans mercifully never experience. In college, I was wrongfully accused of a violent crime. I was arrested, booked into county jail, and entered into a legal system that is very much balanced against those without the means to hire very good attorneys. This alone should make your breath hitch, your heart skip, and a cold sweat rise. In jail, I was instantly thrust into an underworld, chaotic yet oddly ordered, and governed by rules and codes of conduct, a foreign land for those of us who generally avoid breaking laws. There are the formal jailer's rules, and then there are the rules of inmates. I felt like I was wandering through a mirror universe, full of people with empathy for what happened, extensions of warmth, camaraderie, and assistance for this lost foreigner. I was placed with other violent offenders and suspects, but there was none of the hostility or machismo embedded in our heads by the pervasive stereotypes of jail. The jailers, however, assumed I was as dangerous as the accusation said. My tractability and courtesy from the time the police showed up on my door, all through my jailing, had zero bearing on my treatment. I was a poor college student. I had long ago turned my back on my family. I would rather rot in jail awaiting trial than contact my family for assistance. And it is not as if they could or would help, even if I did ask. My cell phone was confiscated, and I had none of my close friends' numbers memorized. Even though they would gladly come to my aid, I had no way of contacting them to get help. I was really all alone. Weeks later, when some of the facts started coming to light, I was finally released into the purgatory of my own recognizance. I was out of jail, but not a free person just yet. Even though I walked among you like a free person, I was actually an imposter, a veneer on an interior that, according to the law, is probably a thoroughly rotten interior. I stood on this legal precipice, staring into an abyss that was going to consume my hopes and dreams. Everything for which I had worked all my life was about to flash to steam on the brazier of the legal system. By now, my charges were public record. I was a demon wearing human skin and walking among you. At least that was the sum of all the looks and whispers and outright fear that I received from people on the street who didn't know me any better. Classmates and instructors who only knew the public record moved to the other sides of halls and classrooms. The trial started, and I presented my case, which was hinged on not only mistaking identity, but a false accusation in the first place. Not only had the police picked up the wrong person and proceeded to double down on their error, the reported crime was falsely filed against my neighbor in a convoluted attempt at a revenge by a classmate we both barely knew. I lawyered up, which would impact my meager finances for years. The special prosecutor refused to summarily dismiss my case, despite my evidence that this shouldn't even be a case. My trial was scheduled. Months later, the deus ex machina of my plot was a better job offer in another state for the special prosecutor. The prosecutor summarily dismissed most of her cases. Like closing a novel, my horror ended almost as fast as it had begun. I was suddenly resurrected into the land of the living, walking again among you, holy as one of you. Almost holy. I am still haunted by the possibility that I am a demon inside. The mere sight of police cause an adrenaline rush, a cold sweat, and an overwhelming need to run as fast as I can in the other direction. I feel as if I currently inhabit some other verse that most people can't see, a place where some people live, and a place where very unfortunate people have accidentally pulled back reality to see the rotten, infested, squirming underpinnings.
It's Kaylie from Haphazard Adventures, and I'm here to talk about my scary stories. Adventure? My scary story adventure. Okay, so I am the person that was terrified of scary movies. Like, absolutely terrified. Could not watch it, could not sleep, could not eat. Like, went to a scary movie and pretty much only saw somebody's jacket. And then I don't know, like one time I was doing crafts with Cody and we were just doing the holiday stuff and he wanted to put on a scary movie and I was like, all right, whatever. And then we just it was like a marathon of scary shows and I was like, these are awesome. These are amazing. I love these. These are so silly. Let's watch more. And that was like, I want to say like 6 or 7 years ago. And now we watch some scary shows during Halloween, but as soon as it hits Christmas, I'm like, nothing but scary movies. Like, that's all I want to watch. And it's kind of funny because it was an accidental family tradition, but that's kind of the best family traditions because they happen so genuinely and so uniquely. So our current family tradition is to watch a whole bunch of scary horror thrillers, like jump and scare you, like in the dark with all the kids, and then scare each other during Christmas time. You know, the ultimate, like, I love you. Nope, we're gonna be like, I fucking scare you.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Mahler. You might know me from my musical project, Trusty Seacreatures, and as a co-host of the Moist Boys podcast. Now, I know there are a couple different podcasts using that name, but we're the good one. That being said, I'm here to talk about the genre of horror and what it means to me. I think the first time I saw a horror movie was 1997's Mimic. Now, you might say that a 9-year-old kid probably shouldn't watch a hard R monster sci-fi horror movie, and you'd be right. That movie pretty much ruined my week and made me terrified of dark spaces. It did, however, start my love affair with Mira Sorvino, so it wasn't all bad. About a year later, back in the day when AMC stood for American Movie Classics, and they exclusively showed movies from the 60s and earlier, during the lead up to Halloween, they were showing classic horror movies. I came upon House on Haunted Hill partway through, and I had no idea what it was, so I started watching it. The first ghost that appeared scared the ever-living hell out of me, and I immediately changed the channel, looking for anything to scrape the image out of my mind. Full disclosure, nothing did. So now, imagine a 10-year-old kid trying to walk down a dark hallway with rooms on all sides, terrified of what was waiting in the dark to jump out at him, all as he tried to get to his bedroom. The next year, The Blair Witch Project was released. Now, one would assume that I would avoid that movie like the plague. You, my friend, would be wrong. As you might be able to tell at this point, I'm not a fan of horror movies. I hate the feeling that I get watching horror. The fear and anxiety, knowing it's all in my head, but being unable to control the feeling. It's not an exhilarating experience for me. It's at times almost crippling, as adrenaline bitters the taste in my mouth and all the hairs on my body stand on end. An overactive imagination has always plagued my psyche. And even as an adult, I sometimes have trouble looking out the window at night, peering into the yard, wondering if someone or something will be standing there. Or, for the same reason, looking at the roofs of neighboring houses. Thanks M. Night Shyamalan for that one. There is an area of horror that I do occasionally dip my toes, and that's in TV horror. Shows like The X-Files, when I was younger, had moments that were terrifying, yet I would keep coming back to see what new creatures would pop up next. Later on, as an adult, Sleepy Hollow had a similar effect, albeit to a lesser extent, and again, to diminishing returns. All of this is to say that I hate the feeling that I get when I'm exposed to horror media, but I don't hate horror media. I do find that I have a curiosity that more often than not gets me in trouble, but on the other hand, sometimes you can find something that you fall in love with, even if parts of it make you uncomfortable. One of the best video games I've ever played is Oxenfree. While not explicitly a horror game, it does deal with the supernatural in sometimes horrific ways. You deal with seeing the deaths of friends, people being possessed, and moving through time and space to save the lives, or sacrifice the lives, of those who are stuck on the island with you. Knowing whether what you've seen is real or not is a constant strain on you, the player, your character, and the other people around you. But it's a great game, and I still love playing it to this day. I also find myself drawn in by the works of Junji Ito. If ever you've wanted a single drawing to haunt you for the rest of your life, his work is a good place to start. Japanese horror is a whole category unto itself, and Ito is a master of it. I've never wanted to read something I knew was going to ruin me as much as I want to read Junji Ito. His artwork and his use of suspense are too intriguing not to look, but what you see may haunt you, and you'll find yourself sitting on the couch late at night, looking for anything that will scrape the images you've just seen from your mind, just as I did as a kid, and just as I sometimes find myself doing to this day. Thanks for listening. You can find me on social media like Instagram at Trusty Seacreatures and at Moist Boys Podcast, and Twitter at Trusty C Music. Once again, I'm Jonathan Mahler, signing off.
Hi, my name is Paul Dulski, and I'm from the Everything Horror Podcast. One of my favorite scary stories is not having cable, because I do not like to turn on the TV to know what type of scary goriness is actually going on in the real world. That is my favorite scary story. My favorite movies have to be, for the season of October, is my Rituals, really, which is like the Universal Monster classic with Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Bride of Frankenstein works too. Otherwise, we got the amazing 20th year old film by Tim Burton, Sleepy Hollow. And finally, we kind of have to go into the cartoon side, where I would have to say I would have to go back to my original childhood of All Real Monsters, or Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman, or Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. My favorite book or comic? Let's see. There's so many good ones out there, and I know Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is probably the classic title that where we all get told. And so I guess I'll go back to what really started it all for me from the original book would be 1, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, and 2, a child's book where it's called The 5 Goofy Ghosts. One other scary story I have, even though I have many, is that one night I was over at a friend's house when I was in middle school, and we were celebrating his birthday. And I just remember it was me and my friend who had the birthday, and then one more friend of ours who was a little bit shorter than us and skinnier than us. So we were trying to sleep, and the way we slept was my buddy who was celebrating his birthday slept by the window. Our shortest skinny person was in the middle, and I was near the end of the futon bed. When we woke up, we actually got moved around in the night. I was actually where my friend was at the window. My friend who was at the window was actually like underneath the bed, and the other friend was like sort of where I was, but kind of had to be somewhere between hanging off the bed and still on the bed. We still don't know to this day what happened there. And if that isn't scary enough, well, I guess we got one more for you. And that would be, back when I used to do paranormal investigation, there was one incident where at the time I didn't think anything of it because, normally I ran into nothing but good spirits, but on this particular night, something or someone was trying to possess one of my friends. And let's just say that ended up almost being a bad time. But luckily we got out just in time, so we didn't have to worry about it. But he was getting cold, he was shaking, he was getting to the point where he was pretty much shouting, we need to leave, and that's when we left. It was really starting to get bad. What Halloween means to me, well, it is the first day of the Day of the Dead, where Tessa kind of mentioned a little bit of Samhain, and, well, it kind of goes into this Day of the Dead, where, you know, you get to look at the appreciation of these 3 days from Halloween to November 2nd, and you can contact the dead, because the dead can walk the earth for 3 days. And not only that, you can share drinks with the dead. And by doing that, all you have to do simply is just pour a glass of wine, beer, water, whatever you're drinking, and then go outside and offer the drink to the spirits, which by that, all you have to really do, and this may sound weird, but this is exactly what you gotta do, is pour some on the ground. And that way you're sharing with the spirits around you. So I guess in a way it's more like appreciating and trying to contact the one that you lost, and just being able to become something else and be scared and just have a good time, not anything too serious, which unfortunately seems to be what's going on nowadays. We can't be letting that happen, and we just need to keep Halloween the way it was. Nice, fun, scary, good times with lots of candy. And yes, thank you, John, for this opportunity. It was fun talking about my favorite stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoyed what I had to share myself. You can find the Everything Horror Podcast at EH Podcast, that is EHPODCASTS.com. We also released our first ever short horror film entitled The Passenger, a Vermont urban legend, which is right now available to watch for free on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/EH Podcast. And once again, EHPODCASTS. And there you should be able to search our YouTube channel if you can't see it right away. The Passenger, a Vermont urban legend. And I hope you enjoy, because we got plenty more stories to tell.
Hi, I'm Tessa Baker from the Everything Horror Podcast. What Halloween means to me is, when I was younger, when I was a child, it used to be about dressing up and being someone else. And as I grew older, it became more about Samhain, which is where the veil between our world and the world of the dead is at its thinnest, and the spirits of our departed loved ones can walk amongst us. It's a time of season where we can honor our dead, and where there's this certain energy in the air that you can feel, and it's comforting to some, but some find it creepy. But to me personally, it's my favorite time of the year. I just love the energy surrounding Halloween, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, whatever you choose to call it. My favorite movies that I like to watch around this time of year, I would have to say, thanks to my other half here, he introduced me to Trick or Treat. So that's one of my favorite ones to watch. We've made a ritual of watching certain ones. I like watching Monster Squad. I also like watching Halloween, the classics with Michael Myers, things like that. Favorite comic or book, I would have to say definitely Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I pretty much grew up with those books. I also like an urban legend. I like urban legend books as well. Favorite scary story I would have to go with would be the Big Toe from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I always thought that frickin' story was very creepy, and it always gave me goosebumps reading it as a child, and always made me want to use like a flashlight and never go anywheres into the dark by myself. Pretty much it. Also, thank you very much, John, for the opportunity of having Paul and I on. It's greatly appreciated, and we always like to participate. And I hope you enjoy your spooky season.
The magistrate judge, or exempt jury for a federal criminal offense, which is against your name. Your case ID is CP-90632. For more information on your case, you can contact the Tax and Crime Unit on our number, that is 202-922-2894. I repeat, 202-922.
So this one time, it was early in the morning, and I saw John Horsley. Terrifying. Okay, second to seeing John Horsley in the morning, the scariest thing, I don't know if it's the scariest thing, but one of my favorite scary stories is The Wonderful Sausage, about a butcher that chopped people up and fed them to the other town residents as his delicacy. I have memories of, as a kid, this is one of those campfire stories you tell, just getting so into telling this story and really, doing my best to scare people. And I think in hindsight, it was probably hilarious to adults around, but that's probably my favorite memory of a scary story. The World's Most Wonderful Sausage. You guys should look that one up and give it a read.
Alright, I'm here with Daniel A. Prim, and he's going to tell us about his Halloween picks, his horror movie picks, his horror pick for the month of October.
Right. Hello guys, so my horror pick is a quite recent movie that's been overlooked a little bit. It's called Annihilation. It's a really bone-chilling movie, basically. I'm all about themes, as if you read my comics, you know. And that movie is all about exploring a theme of duality and cancer, basically. And so every little detail goes into making you think about what is humanity, what are you, what is cancer, what are relationships, what is being a human like. And I think there's nothing better to scare you other than existential horror, basically. And it's other than being freaking horrifying, it's very beautiful as well. And the last 20 minutes, without spoiling anything, will absolutely blow you away. If you like visual storytelling that doesn't jam things down your throat, and themes that make you think a little bit depressed, but we'll get over it, then I recommend Annihilation. 2017 or 2018, you'll find it. It's by the guy.
I've actually seen this, and
yeah.
I've read the Southern Reach trilogy, and the film was a departure from the book a little bit,
yeah,
but it was its own thing, and it was very, very entertaining.
I've heard people who read the book didn't like it as much.
Man, you kind of have to. You'll never get the same thing out of a book as you do with a movie, and that everything has their own merits to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can't be married to too many of the things in the book that are in the movie, or vice versa. But the bear scene freaks me the fuck out.
What about the end?
Oh,
That last 20 minutes. My jaw was on the floor, and not a lot of things surprised me.
It was like a dance.
Yeah.
When and also the almost a resignation to the main character when she's kind of like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And man, it really hits you hard. It hits you in the gut.
Yeah, so that's my kind of favorite horror stuff, when it's really emotional, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not in a drama way, but in a like what the fuck kind of way.
So, yeah, that was a great pick, man. Daniel, thanks again for coming on. And you guys, this will have already, the Kickstarter will have already been over with. But Daniel has The Last Arrival 1 and 2. I don't know if they're going to be in local comic shops or anywhere. Do you have a Redbubble or anything that you sell your comics off of?
It's definitely going to be on Coxology. Other than that, we're working on something that we set up to. We're working on something that you can buy our hard copies to, but previously it wasn't as popular. But basically, if you're living around London area, especially Hemel Hempstead, Aylesbury, St Albans, all that, I'm gonna, at least next year, I'm gonna go to all the Comic Cons, all the local Comic Cons, so you can visit me there. London MCM, the biggest Comic Con in England, I'll be there in the Artist Alley, somewhere buried, being awkward with people. But you'll find me there, and don't be afraid to approach me.
When I think of Halloween, I think of the Hearst song. My older sister Kathy, I think, taught this to me when I was a little kid. And I think it kind of pissed my mother off because she's not the biggest fan of Halloween and what it represents. So to hear her little boy sing the Hearst song from time to time, I think it kind of, I don't think she liked it too much. But, well, let's give it a try. Don't you laugh as a hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet and cover you up from head to feet. They put you in a big black box and cover you up with dirt and rocks, and all goes well for about a week until your coffin begins to leak. The worms crawl in and the worms crawl out. The worms play pinochle on your snout, and they eat your eyes, they eat your nose, they eat the jelly between your toes. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls in your stomach and out your sides. Your stomach turns a slimy green and pus pours out like whipping cream. You'll spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you eat when you are dead.
Living in the deep south, you sometimes come across old superstitions. Haint blue is one of them. In the old houses, sometimes in the newer ones, you'll see a light blue. It's thought to ward off the demons, the spirits. It's bullshit, but the idea was the Haints would see this blue door in the ceiling up on the porch, and they'd think that the paint was water. Be too afraid to cross over, so the doors were made not only just a barrier between the inside and out, but also a barrier between the spirit world and that of the living. Well, when my family bought our home out in the country, one of the first things we replaced was the front door. It was beat up as shit, and it was blue. The home was a fixer-upper, so we took on a big task. The back deck was all beaten to shit and just dry rotted. So we tore that down and rebuilt it. Had to remodel the bathrooms. There was old grandma wallpaper all over, and we had to tear that off and repaint the walls. Linoleum floors, got to get rid of that shit. Tore that out and replaced it with tile. And I took down the old door. My neighbor yelled across the street from us. He lived about 200 yards away. That it was a shame that we were getting rid of that old blue door. I thought it was a real shame that he wasn't minding his own goddamn business, but, you know, whatever. I mean, sure, I'm glad you live 2 football fields away and have an opinion about my door, but it's falling apart. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So I just said, why do you like this old door so much? He looked at me and shrugged and drained the rest of his natty light, I assume. I continued on with the door, and my wife bought this nice red door, stained glass on the front of it. Looks real good. So anyway, it's about 1:30 in the morning now. I've been up writing. My dog's been staring down the hall towards the new door for the past 30 goddamn minutes. Her hair's on end. Her lips are baring her teeth. And all I can think about is that goddamn blue door collecting cobwebs up in my basement. And I think I'll be buying some paint tomorrow. I think I already know the color.
And then being the Halloween season, I've only watched one scary movie this year, The Nun. I watched The Nun with a friend of mine.
Oh yeah, from the it's from the same universe as that one, The Conjuring.
Yes, it's like a prequel or something.
It's a prequel to The Conjuring 2.
Yeah,
I loved The Conjuring.
Did you?
I absolutely thought that movie was so fucking good. It was and it was made by the same dude who did Aquaman. Directorial wise, so the cinematography was just the same, man. It was like all like one shots and stuff, and it was great because like up until I saw The Conjuring, my favorite horror movies were Paranormal Activity movies.
Yeah,
and because I don't really care for, I mean, like killers going after people, it's fine. It's just scary to me.
Like Jason.
Jason's different because he's paranormal kind of. He doesn't fucking die.
Yeah.
So that is okay. Or him and Freddy, they're Michael fine Myers. With me. Michael Myers, I don't know if he's paranormal. He's just fucking crazy.
He's just like Jason, I think. Like he doesn't like.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if he doesn't. That's not canon anymore. I don't know. Like Halloween 2 through whatever isn't canon anymore.
Right.
Halloween and Halloween 2018 are the only 2 that are canon, and they do not mention why he doesn't fucking die.
Right.
You know, maybe, I don't know, but from what I understand, he's just fucking nuts. He's a prisoner, and he's just like...
He's a big badass, like, just... yeah, I don't know. But Michael Myers has, like, one of the biggest following, like, Tech 9 loves Michael Myers. Like, he's a huge Michael Myers fan. He has that song, Michael Myers Mask.
Oh, yeah.
My mental's made of Michael Myers mask. Like he just loves him so much. Like he references Michael Myers plenty of
I mean,
times.
I love that movie. That they're very good movies, and they take place during Halloween, so those are fine with me. I don't mind that stuff.
See, I have a love and hate relationship with like horror movies because they don't ever really scare me. Like I never have gotten scared from a movie ever. Like because my father had me watching Hellraiser when I was fucking a cum stain. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been watching that shit forever. So those were rated the scariest movies ever in their time.
Right.
I don't know if you've watched the Hellraisers, but
I've not. Now I've always been like a huge fan of I don't know what found footage films.
Yeah, like Paranormal Entity and
Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch, things like that. Now I haven't seen Blair Witch, but that style of movie has always been super appealing to me.
Because it makes it seem kind of real.
Extremely, yeah, and like mockumentary style. Because I'll never forget the way I felt after have you ever seen Cloverfield?
No, I never watched it.
So it was great. Now the only thing that sort of took me out of it was the fact that T.J. Miller was in the movie. Otherwise, there wasn't a single actor in that movie that I had ever seen or heard of.
Oh yeah, because
so when I left the theater, I was like, dude, like it felt like it was real.
That's what made the Paranormal Activities and shit real. And like Paranormal Entity, the one where Doors and Floors, remember Doors and Floors?
I don't know if I've seen Paranormal Entity. Oh yeah, we watched
fun
it
of
together.
it. You would like walk in, you're like, what's up with all the doors and floors and just floors and doors and walls and floors?
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
It's where she was like molested by that ghost. It was like a scene of her getting raped by a ghost. It was crazy.
We watched it at the apartment.
Yeah,
that's all it was doors and floors.
Because that was supposed to be like realistic. I guess, but
and that's what
But there was no actors in those movies that you recognized, like
right.
So it made it seem more like if you can't like they're like Christopher Walken in it's like a ghost, like.
Well, I felt the same way.
Like,
It's a motherfucking ghost.
He does other videos like that.
I've got a fever.
I got a fever.
So I used to love Paranormal Activity. Like when I first saw it, I thought it was real.
Yeah.
Because they didn't announce forever that it was like fake. You know, they really went with the hype train on that one, and then Paranormal Activity 2 came out, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy shit.
A sequel.
Yeah, it was a sequel, and then I think it wasn't until Paranormal Activity 3 or 4 they had the chick from Last Man Standing in it, and then there was another guy from like a Nickelodeon show in there, and I was like, oh, it just took me out of it seeing like bigger name actors in it, but that series of movies is great the whole way through.
Yeah, they do a good job at making it seem like. Honestly, the creepiest part of that movie is when there's that scene of him standing there staring at her while she's sleeping for like 8 hours or 6 hours, whatever it was. You know, that would creep me the fuck out.
Do you see the one where they were kids?
I think so, yeah.
When she like runs into nothing and like looks up and just like,
oh, and you picture her by her hair.
Yeah, I was like,
I laughed my ass off of that.
But like, so there was that one, and then there was like another one that came out. It was called like the Marked Ones or something. It took place in like Mexico, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it had nothing to do with the originals, and then at the end of the movie they connected it all, and it blew my fucking mind. I was like, this is crazy, like it's so good. And then by the time the Ghost Dimension came out, which is the last one, it was a baller fucking connected universe. I really enjoyed it, and that's what I like about The Conjuring, is that it's like that, but it's filmed not mockumentary style, but it was just as freaky to me. And I was like, this is really good. And then we watched another one called The Babadook. And and it took place in like England, and it was fucking weird, but it wasn't freaky at all. It was just annoying.
Right. Well, there's also this new show. I just heard of it last night. Actually, this friend of mine was telling me about it. It's called Evil.
It's a show.
Yes.
I've heard of it. It
has the guy that plays Luke Cage. He's the main guy, and he's like a priest, like a Catholic priest, but he has like visions of God and shit. But he like does exorcisms and shit. Like there's like 6 different types of exorcisms. And it was cool. I watched an episode, like episode 3, and it was pretty fucking cool. I might check it out actually.
Oh yeah.
I think you might like it.
Dude. That reminds me. Last year, we watched The Haunting of Hill House, and it was fucking excellent.
The Haunting on Hill House.
The Haunting of Hill House.
Is it a TV show?
Yeah, it's a Netflix original.
Does it have anything to do with the House of Haunted Hill?
I don't think so. It's a whole new series.
Well, like the original movie is House on Haunted Hill. Like, so I'm wondering if it was like
I don't think so. The name of the house was just Hill House. But it was so good, and I don't know if a couple people I talked to, like, it was a big deal.
Right. I was in the hospital, so
yeah. I mean, it was a big deal last year, and like people were like nonstop talking about it. Netflix can do no wrong. It was so good.
Right.
And I hadn't watched the finale yet, and I was talking to somebody at work about it, and they were like, "Oh, I saw that ending coming," but I'll tell you right now, I don't know if it's just because I suffer from that fucking thing where I can't see obvious stuff coming, but the twist that happens in that show blew my goddamn mind. Like, right out of the back of my skull. I could not wait for more.
See, I envy that. I wish I didn't see things coming.
You're not the first person that's told me that, but I swear to God, dude, there's no way that you could see this. It was so fucking crazy that I was like, how did you see it coming? Or someone's like, oh, it wasn't that crazy. I'm like, dude, like, you gotta be shitting me, because it was so nuts.
I think a lot of times people like just like, I saw it coming, but like they can't tell you how they saw it coming. They just want to be that person that like, oh.
We are talking to Rich Dewitt. He's going to tell us about his favorite horror fiction. Rich, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm well. So you got something for us?
I do. I'd love to tell you guys about one of my favorite horror comics. It's called Echoes by writers Josh Fialka. It was put out through Top Cow. And it's an amazing, like, creepy-ass serial killer book. It's one of the only comics that's, like, legitimately, like, freaked me out. Like, if I'd been reading the actual book, I probably would have thrown the book across the room. I was reading it on an iPad. I didn't want to break the iPad. But I definitely, like, kind of set it down for a second. Because just everything, like, from the art, the atmosphere... it's just crazy. Like, I don't want to like spoil anything, but it has to do with like these really creepy ass dolls, sculptures. Yeah, it's just anyway, it's a great book, and I can't recommend it enough.
That's awesome. Echoes, and it's out from Top Cow.
Yeah. It's a little old, so it might be a little hard to find, but you could definitely get it on Comixology. And I'm sure you could find a copy somewhere, but it's worth seeking out.
That's great. And since we've talked about that and about getting freaked out, what's your best palate cleanser when you're watching something that freaks you out? And you have to have something else before you get off the Netflix or off the iPad.
I think it's got to be kind of like I think comedy works really well. And it's got to be like a comedy that I know is going to work for me. It's got to be kind of something that, like, I'm not going to like take a chance on something and like take a chance on it being horrible. So I got to throw on kind of like a classic comedy movie, like I don't know, like Blazing Saddles or
that's perfect.
Animal House or something like that. Caddyshack, just one of those kind of movies that like it's just sort of like I know, like even though I've seen it like 1,000 times, it's going to laugh and put me in a good mood.
Rich, I think you would be invited to our movie night because that's nice. Right up our bag, right up our alley. Nice. Yeah. Lately we've been doing the Great British Baking Show. If we're watching something that's too fucking gnarly.
Yeah, I hear they're very like. I've watched it a couple of times. It's a lot of fun because they're just so like light. Helpful. It's kind of like the opposite of like horror.
Nobody is an asshole. Everybody is nice, and then they make delicious cakes. So you can't get like any better of a palate cleanser after you watch like somebody cut off somebody's head with a penknife or something. So
that's one of those shows that I kind of like they take like a lot of British shows and like make the American version. I don't know if they can make the American version because I don't know if, like every American kind of cooking show is like chopped, like people are trying to like fuck each other over and stuff like that. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome. I'll try that next time. Next time I get the EBGBs.
Well, Rich, thanks again, man. And since we have you on, I just want to remind everybody to go out and get Gutter Magic, because Gutter Magic is a fantastic book, and you guys are going to love it. So, y'all go out and get Gutter Magic. You got anything else to say before we let you go?
No, I mean, if you're doing a horror thing, Road of Bones is a pretty awesome horror story. So if you're in the mood for that, check that out too.
Awesome.
But yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you again.
Hi, this is AI Miller. I'm a comics creator, and I'm just calling into the Spoiler Country podcast to talk about one of my favorite books. I'm not sure I would classify it as horror, but it's definitely got a spooky vibe to it. It's The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. And the basic premise of the book is the main character, George Orr, has these dreams and finds that when he wakes up, his dreams have altered reality, and nobody else remembers reality from before that. It's only him, so he kind of actually it's a dreaming somebody out of existence when he's really young, and sort of starts taking drugs to cope with it, and also to keep the dreams at bay. All this happens really early in the story, and it really kind of kicks off when he's forced to choose between going to an asylum or therapy, and he kind of chooses therapy, and his secret is revealed to his psychiatrist, who finds that through hypnosis he can make George dream specific things into reality, and starts taking advantage of it. And it's a really hectic, mind-bending novel, but it gets really spooky and weird. There's alien invasions, there's ends of the world, and it's kind of just a fun read. It's a short little book, and it's actually been adapted several times, once in the early 70s as I think a television series, which Ursula Le Guin was involved with, and once in the 2000s, which I think was she was less involved with, and was a less close adaptation to the book. But it's a fantastic read. It's a short book. It takes a day or so to get through, and it's pretty spooky, right? It actually kind of reminds me a lot of Philip K. Dick's books and short stories. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about, and I guess that's it. This is AI Miller, and if you want to see any of my work, I'm currently running a webcomic called The Cup King. It's thecupking.com, kind of about cups and life and people being taken over by their characters that they're writing about, because I enjoy that sort of thing. And I also contribute to the Comic Jam, which is thecomicjam.com, where we just hang out on Discord and make comics every week. Anywho, take a look at those websites, and I hope you have a spooky Halloween.
I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey through scary stories, favorite scary stories, and Halloween adventures tonight, and for joining us in the Halloween episode of Spoiler Country for 2019. And in case you were wondering who everybody was, or if those who didn't say their name, here is the list of everybody who was involved in this in order of their appearance on the show tonight. This will also be in the show notes as well, so you can go to scpod.net, go to this episode, or in any podcatcher, go to the description, and you'll see links to everybody who was involved and what they've done and how to find them online, as well as who they are and what they've done. So first was Sara Kay, writer here on Spoiler Country. She writes reviews for us, and she writes articles. She wrote a great article on ghost hunting. You have Colton Bird, who writes reviews and press releases for us here on scpod.net. He's also a host on the show Bridging the Geekdoms with Robert Slavinksy. Up next is Robert Slavinksy, who is the host and creator of Shootin The Sith. He also writes a lot of articles here on Spoiler Country or scpod.net. You've probably seen his work there. We had Wayne Myer, who was an awesome dude. He's a great friend of mine. He told us an amazing true story that would scare the hell out of me. Kaylie Horsley, host of Haphazard Adventures, also my wife. She's pretty awesome, I think. Jonathan Mahler, host of the Moist Boys podcast and musician for Trusty Seacreatures. He's a really awesome dude I met locally at a con. Paul Dulski, host of Everything Horror Podcast, and Tessa Baker, host of Everything Horror Podcast. They both came on and talked about their scary stories, and they also Paul also did a recent short film, The Passenger, which he talked about. He's doing some more, so check him out. It's pretty cool. Joshua McMillan, former coworker of mine, also was going to co-host a podcast with me, but life got in the way. We still might do it someday, so watch out for that. We got Daniel A. Prim, writer of The Last Arrival. He was on our show a while ago talking with Casey about that book. We got, who's this guy? Kendrick Reagan. We got Kendrick Reagan. Apparently he's a host of something called Spoiler Country. We got Casey Tickle Monster Allen. He does interviews for us here. He also writes for the Down Low on the website, does a bunch of great stuff for us. He's also the editor of the Einz Anthology with me, and he curates and posts over the Comic Jam. We got Deej Penhollow and Lane Stipe, the host of Nerdtalcalypse, and Deej is doing a cup of cheer here for us, and it's going to be awesome. Well, not for us, but with us, in conjunction with us. It's going to be great for the holidays. Got Rich Doick, the writer of Good or Magic. He was on the show talking about Casey. It's a great book. I read the first issue. It's really fantastic. And last but not least, we got Aaron Miller, who is the founder of the Comic Jam, talking about what horror means to him. I want to thank everybody again for being involved in this. And, it wouldn't be quite fair if I didn't tell you what horror means to me or what Halloween means to me, because everybody else did, and I might as well do it too. So, for me, I've always loved horror. Well, I've always loved monsters, as the reason why I created the Einz Anthology, I've always loved monsters and scary things and gross demonic things and ripped up bloody stuff and zombies and stuff like that. But I didn't really watch horror movies a lot growing up. I mostly watched comedies, and I watched, anything that was superhero based. But as I got older, I didn't watch horror movies because, one, I thought they were kind of cheesy, and I thought they were lame. Not lame, but I just thought they were cheesy because, it's not realistic. But then, as I got older and got more into, I still read books. I read horror books and comic stuff my whole life, but movies I wasn't really into. But as I got older, I realized that horror movies are just, it's all about that scare factor and that fun and that creepiness that you can get from things. And for me, probably the creepiest horror film I ever saw was, and it's going to be weird, but it was Hostel. When I saw Hostel, and there's something about it that just creeped me out. And the idea of, after watching that movie, the idea of staying in a hostel while traveling around in Europe or anywhere else, I'm kind of like, no, that's not a good idea. I'm not going to stay in a hostel. But, it's just, those weird things get in your head, and that movie really got in my head. So, but overall, it is what it is. As you heard Kaylie say earlier, we watch horror movies all Christmas time. So here coming up in a month, a little over a month, we'll be watching horror movies daily at my house, which is pretty freaking cool. So we went from a family of no horror films where I was trying to get Kaylie to watch horror to every Christmas we watch more than just at Christmas time. I watch a month throughout the year, but really Christmas time is like 25 days of horror, which is pretty freaking cool. So again, that's where I'm going to end this. Thank you everyone for coming on and telling us your story. Thank you everybody who called into the voicemail line. Really appreciate that. And this is Spoiler Country. Check us out at scpod.net. Go there, read all the articles, just click through every single page, read everything, make comments. I'd love it if you made comments on the site. It's kind of live for comments. So, thank you. Happy Halloween.
We're recording.
We're recording.
So we're just doing the intro and everything, and you're okay. You got nobody like freaking out that you're not there.
No, I got time. I walked in and told Kayla I was gonna be outside for 3 minutes.
Okay, you got 5-10 minutes. I think
yeah.
Cool. Oh, all right. All right. That was a fake one. That was a fake one.
Yeah.
That was fake. I've had a couple drinks, so
I'm about to.